see a bus on my behind. Hope he doesn't kill me. Really hope he doesn't kill me. Okay, we are okay. All right. We're kicking this off with an evening commute from, where are we? What's 28th and Madison? Like Madison, I forgot what this neighborhood's called, but picked up a bike over near Madison, or near, Park. Or Lex. You think I know the city by now? I don't. I'm also a little bit kind of lightheaded. I just did a workout. Just did a lot of running. So could argue maybe not the best time to be riding a bike through traffic, but I'm certainly not drunk. I'm just, you know, a little sore from a workout. Anyway. Going over here on 29th. Gonna signal, make sure everybody knows what's up. Gonna turn on over here and hope I don't get hit by any stuff. Going over 6th Avenue on the protected. It's not really protected, it's just some green paint on the side, but they call it protected. The DOT labels this as a protected bike lane. You'll notice it is not protected. There are plenty of opportunities for drivers to come on in. As you'll see in a second, see this guy is not yielding. Okay, it's a failure to yield. Thank you. These guys are loading on the bike lane. What's it? 63541 ml. I'm not going to engage in that, but this is definitely not a protected bike lane. And you got this situation here. I'm going to give this guy 5 out of 10. It's like a C minus. XCS 894 Enterprise, whatever. Because they are clearly on the bike lane here. This guy's just throwing the door out, not even looking. These guys really get low marks on bike lane parking. I mean, this guy's just straight up parked in the mixing zone. Armored truck coming through. Here I get to go between a UPS truck, 2 feet of green paint, and a bag of trash. A lot of trash in the bike lane. Alright, so now we're getting over to 6th Avenue, where I'm going to take it on up to Central Park. I think this might be the first ride that I'm documenting. So this is a terrible intersection. This is a good example of really terrible DOT design. I want to make a right. How do I make a right? To do this safely, since we all get the green light at the same time, I kind of have to go over to the right side of the street, of this one-way street, because there actually is no safe way to curve all the way from across the street and over to the right. We do have a leading pedestrian interval here. That's actually true. I guess I could go this way and then try to get through this. But I clearly don't have the right of way, nor should I, but there should be a cyclist interval, particularly on these crosstown protected lanes that probably see a fair amount of volume. Let's see, Zach said to keep things funny, so I'm gonna try to crack some jokes, inject a little humor. May not be able to do that. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, car blocking the whole bike lane and the whole intersection. This is a Jersey driver, 766 CUG, making it so that nobody can walk with a cop right here. Cool. This guy's yelling. It's JJT 7673, just honking his brains out. This guy in the hat and glasses and his Beamer. This guy. He's honking at this guy in the, like, whatever, sweater vest. Preppy look over here. Who is just sort of weaving through. And the BMW guy is honking, going nuts, you know, stuck in traffic, yelling at everybody around you. That is, you know, pathological behavior. That is a problem. Typically, it's an ailment you see when you are behind the wheel of a car for too long. You have antisocial, kind of psychotic behavior. When you are stuck in traffic, they call it road rage. Road rage. It's an ailment. I feel so bad for all these drivers. I feel bad because if they only knew that they could just get out of their cars, take some public transit, and combine it with a little bit of biking, and probably feel a whole lot better throughout their day. I really hope this the BMW guy doesn't kill somebody in his rage. What's really kind of funny here is that we have this protection, right? You come up here, you're like, oh wow, this must be kind of dangerous to bike on 6th Avenue. That's why they put up this giant concrete barrier. And then half a block later, it's gone, and it's gone. And then it's a mixing zone. So I'm not really sure what that barrier is for, what it kind of conveys, but certainly none of these drivers are yielding. Yeah, we have literally 15 cyclists here. That guy's speeding, everybody's speeding. But I'm gonna mosey on up. So that's what we do up in here on the bike lane in Bike Talk with Jeff, your host. Oh man, this ambulance. Here, Jersey. Jersey is coming through. This young lady is in a hurry in her SUV. So yeah, this stretch of road is what I call the Coney Island, the Warriors commute. So basically, I just need to get to Central Park. I need to get up to Central Park because that is safety. That's where because Central Park is car free. And if I can get up there, I'm safe. I can get up there without getting hit by any of these assholes. This Lexus Jersey driver. See what's going on in here. Then, how's it going?
Yeah, it's
Yeah. You come up 6th Avenue a lot?
I I try to avoid it.
It's a death lane, right? But it's great when you hit Central Park, right?
Well, once you get there.
Oh man.
I pretty much exclusively bike in Brooklyn. It is the smallest amount of New York as I can.
Brooklyn and just a little bit. You mean Manhattan?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Tiniest little bit.
Oh man. All right. Oh, hello. Enjoying the conversation with bike lane buddies, bike lane bros. This is a door zone. This is like the worst possible place to go. You're in a 2-foot gap, a 3-foot gap between, well, I mean, barely. You don't even have a gap here. You have this garbage, and then a bunch of people not yielding, making it impossible to see. This piece of shit keeps cutting me off. But now I'm taking the whole lane. Because guess what? There's no bike lane. So I am legally allowed to take the whole lane. And not only that, I am obligated by law to take the whole lane. Because it is way less safe for me to go through the cracks and crevices of sort of gaps between the cars. I'm going to do that too, and I'm going to do it in a more controlled way, safe way. Here's a guy. Yep, this driver is jutting. His front wheels are in the bike, in the crosswalk here. So yeah, I call this stretch. I'm at 44th Street, trying to get up to 59th. At 59th, you get to enter Central Park. Central Park is car free. I don't have to deal with this crap, like this intersection bullying guy who's just sort of driving through. Oh man, nothing like being flanked by 2 trucks, a truck and a van, who both want to cut each other off. Not even paying attention. With some more shit in the lane. Because if I can get through this garbage without dying, oh man, this is a truck making a left turn. This is dangerous. I don't like this, but I'm gonna go anyway. Do you like my narration of this garbage, of this ride? Basically, if I can make it up 6th Avenue without getting T-boned or hit from behind or whatever from these speeding drivers, then I am safe. I'm safe in Coney Island, and that's basically the story of the Warriors, where the Warriors have to get to their home turf, but they're getting hunted by all of the New York City gangs. It's 1979, so there were a lot more gangs back then, and they all had funky little dress codes. They had the guys with the bats and the mimes, and you know, some ladies who played softball or something, and then clowns, and I don't know, all the gangs had funny little costumes. So that was super fun. So the movie is basically this group, the gang called the Warriors, trying to get to Coney Island. They're riding the subway, they're running, they're going to Central Park, they're going to Brooklyn, and they just need to get to their home territory with and get through all these obstacles. You know, 10 different gangs. They're all trying to kill them. And once they get home, they're sort of home safe. And so that's what I think of with this path right here. 49th, so I got 10 blocks left. And again, get there safely. Whoa, this guy's just hitting the pavement. We can get there without getting cut off by a cab or creamed by a truck. I mean, I don't want to make, it's not a laughing matter. It's not like a funny kind of thing. It's just it's actually very kind of deadly. It is super deadly. But I think if you have a healthy, this guy, literally, I'm looking at him, I'm ringing, he doesn't even notice me. Not even looking. These guys honking at each other. Driving is literally the worst thing you can do to a city. Like, this guy just cut me off. It's 7L58. He's probably gonna cut off that guy too. Other guy had a bike. So there's an argument to be made about, I think it's called, I forgot what it's called exactly, but it's basically a technique where you just don't put down bike lanes or anything, you ride with traffic. Like taking the lane, and I think it's called vehicular biking, or I forget what it's called. I've seen it. The people who sort of espouse this have a very strong viewpoint that like it's the best way to go. I'm not exactly sure why. I haven't really formed like, I don't really understand the research that they've done on this, because it seems like all the safest places for biking are the places that have great infrastructure that separate all this stuff and don't mix, you know, 5-year-olds on bikes and like grandparents on bikes with 6 lanes of 50-mile-an-hour van drivers like this guy. You think anybody looks at my hand signals? Do you think this guy even looks at my hand? No. This bus driver has a giant blind spot. Look at this guy, and tell me you can see anybody to the left. Oh, this guy just yelled at me. I don't know what he said. I think he yelled bike, which is funny. And then he's gonna cut off a bus. So that's great. But I'm going to catch up to him because he's an idiot. And that's what drivers don't understand, is that when you're in these lanes here, I'm going to stop here, sorry. How's it going? How's it what? Good. Almost there. I'm almost at Central Park, where I get to breathe free because I'm riding on a highway here. You notice there's no bike infrastructure in this awful 20 blocks here. It's very unsafe. It's a rough spot. Do what you gotta do though, right? I feel like most people don't know that they are on my YouTube video. I think they're just having a conversation with some guy. Meanwhile, all I'm talking about and thinking about all day long, hey, this guy's on a wheelie here. All I'm talking about, all I'm thinking about is bike infrastructure all day long. And so I don't think that taxi driver really knew what I'm talking about. All right, I am safe. I am alive. The best part of the ride is, you know, it smells like manure here, right? Because you have all those trucks. No, those old trucks. They're trucks from the 1800s. They're horses. They're horses. You got all these horses here in Central Park. It's just part of the whatever. It's part of the scenery. It's just, you know, what they do. Got little horse rides that the tourists like to go on, and that's fun. But as you can see on the street here, it's just piles of manure. And the thing is, I used to think this is the smelliest part of Manhattan, and it probably is one of the smelliest parts because it's just a ton of horse manure. But I love that smell because it means that I've hit Central Park, and it means that I am safe. And yeah, no, now it smells. Now it smells pretty bad now. I don't like that smell, but it does remind me of kind of safety, so that's good. And there are no cars here in Central Park. It went car-free at some point middle of last year, I think. Should have been car-free for the last 50 years, probably, or at least 25. Just like Prospect Park. But, you know, I guess we'll take the win. We being, you know, the bike safe streets advocate community. But you still have this car-centric design, right? So you have these traffic lights. There's an article recently by I guess a former DOT commissioner saying, oh, you know, these cyclists don't stop and it's dangerous and the whole thing. And I think that's probably true. Like, this goes back to the DOT just doing such a terrible job of making things really clear to all users of the road who has the right of way, when they have the right of way, and having some cues of like who belongs where. If you need that, I mean, you don't really need that here. You could see they don't need the right of way. People can bike casually through other people who are crossing. It's really not that complex. But you've got all the traffic lights still fully operational, which is bizarre. Because you think it's really not that hard to just take down a couple of traffic lights and maybe repaint the road a little bit. Maybe make some parts of it a little green. Maybe even put a path that goes in the opposite direction. You'll notice that all the cyclists, everybody is basically going counterclockwise around Central Park. We're on the east side here, going north, right? And so it's sort of counterclockwise rotation around the Central Park loop. The problem with that is if you want to go the other direction, you have to do the whole loop in order to get, you know, half a mile down in the park. Otherwise, you're doing a little bit of contraflow riding, which, you know, depends kind of who you are and how you feel about that. But if you're biking, if everybody's going this direction, the way I'm going, and you see a cyclist coming the other direction, maybe fast, maybe slow, it's not clear where they should even be. Maybe they should be on the right side, but like, you can see all those billion runners over on the right side. Like, if they were coming the other direction, they're right. I'm already on the right side. We have a red light here, but nobody pays attention because it's for cars. It doesn't make any sense to pay attention to traffic lights. And that's kind of like the biggest argument for why cyclists really and pedestrians like don't need to follow rules that are designed for cars. All the rules that we're expected to follow were designed for cars because cars are big and kill people. You're cycling fairly, you know, at a reasonable pace, and you're reasonably, you know, paying attention, then you're not really going to do any damage. Nothing ever happens. So anyway, I think all those traffic lights should just be taken down. They don't make any sense, and they're just confusing and distracting. Clearly nobody pays any attention to them because, like, it's second nature. Everybody knows those traffic lights are for cars. Cars are not here, therefore they're irrelevant. And that, in a nutshell, is how cyclists think broadly about the role of traffic lights in the city when it comes to biking. Like, if there's nobody coming and you have a red light, you can basically ride. Whoa, that's cool. It's one of those little electric skateboards. Dude's doing maybe 20 miles an hour on that. Meanwhile, I'm puffing over here at maybe a 5 mile an hour clip up this steep hill. Oh man. But damn, this is beautiful, right? We have a lot to be thankful for here in New York City. We have this beautiful Central Park where you really can't get lost. Let's see. What were some of the, oh yeah, one of the other things I thought was interesting, a little stretch, it's like a 7th inning stretch. It's like a 82nd Street stretch. Can't tell how much people can hear from me yapping about them 10 feet behind them. So one of the funny things is that, you know, a lot of these drivers are complaining a lot about parking, and they don't have enough parking spaces. One of the things I think is really interesting one of the differences between here and Europe, of course, when you go to Europe, you notice right away that the vehicles are just tiny. They're just much, much smaller vehicles all around. You almost never see SUVs. You never ever see like Suburbans or these Chevy Tahoes and like pickup trucks, things like that. You just don't. And it makes you wonder when you get back here and you see, just take a look at any given block in Manhattan or Brooklyn or wherever people park, which is basically everywhere, because there's 4 million parking spaces that the city gives away for free, basically. And look at the vehicles that are in there. Like, these are parking spaces. They're not actually parking spaces, right? It's just curbside space that is a free-for-all, right? There's no like delineation of spaces. So even when they're calculating how many vehicles can a given block hold, you might count 8, you might count 9. If they're all giant Tahoes, then maybe it's 7, right? And so the number actually varies, and it's kind of open to interpretation, but it's really just physics, it's really just measurements. And one of the things I think about is like, imagine that all the vehicles were a lot smaller, 10 years ago, let's say. They've all grown maybe 20%, 30%. SUVs are much more common now than they were 20 years ago. Large vehicles, particularly the taxis, the Ubers and the kind of the nicer, whatever, these bigger vans and things, everybody's curb parking this shit. So they're all out there. And then it's like, well, they've done it to themselves. You have these larger vehicles, and so just simply by having larger vehicles, you probably are losing 10 to 15, with the same amount of space, losing maybe 10 to 15% of your parking spaces. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just sort of making up a number a little bit, but it feels like that's probably around accurate, because if you look at a given block and you think about, okay, if you can fit 9 large vehicles, you could probably fit like 12 or 13 smaller style, European cars. Maybe not like, we're not talking smart cars either. We're just talking like regular sedans, just relatively smaller cars. And so that's like, you did that to yourself. You want large cars, you deal with less parking. And like, just because you went out to the dealer and bought yourself some giant, 12-foot, I don't know how long these things are, but they're really long, 12-foot vehicle, you don't automatically earn free curbside parking for life because you went out and bought a giant vehicle and have some private property you want to store on the street. That ain't our problem. So anyway, so that's how I feel about that. Something that I think is kind of interesting. Just like, hey, you want more parking? Why don't you all just get smaller cars? How about that? How about you start there? Get smaller cars, and then an entire neighborhood can increase the number of parking spots by 20%. Nobody really talks about that though. That never comes up. I notice it never comes up at any of the community board meetings I've heard. Oh yeah. This is such a nice ride when you get to Central Park. Just coming through the park, you got little speed demon guys, gals. Everybody's going fast. Nobody wants to slow down. They're racing and training. I do feel like I can just maybe I should start talking to all the cab drivers on my ride or just anybody through the door, and just be like, hey, how's it going? Like Molly said. Molly seemed very friendly, and she seemed to be like, I will be friendly to anybody, you know? We need a little more warmth in this world. And when you're on a bike, you can offer that. You really can, you know, people see your face. You're not enclosed in metal. You're not, you can be casual and say hello, greet people, all that. This is one of the benefits of being on the most social kind of, other than walking, it's very, very social. Surprised Elon Musk didn't call, you know, bikers serial murderers, serial killers, like the people on a bus. You don't know who's around you, so you should be in one of my Teslas underground by yourself in a tube, because on a bus is gross with gross people who might look at you and talk to you. No, I'm sure he's probably a nice guy, but he blocked me on Twitter. I tweeted at him. Yeah, I said something kind of obnoxious, but kind of felt strongly about it at the time. I sold out my Tesla stock. I didn't have much, and I was looking for a reason to get rid of it anyway. I just didn't believe in the principles. I just was like, how can I be a bike advocate and safe street advocate and own stock in a car company? It's a car company. It doesn't matter if it's an electric car company. It doesn't matter if it's oh, I just swallowed a bug. Oh, that's gross. Whoa. 20 miles an hour sucking down mosquitoes. Yeah, it doesn't really matter that it's, you know, people are like, oh, but it, you know, Tesla. And I bought into the hype early on too. That's why I bought a couple of shares. Not much, I think 5 shares, maybe 10 shares, something like that. And I was like, yeah, you know, this is a company that I really believe in. It has to succeed if the kind of human race is to succeed. You know, it was kind of at that level. Because of course we're going to be doing electric vehicles. But this was long before I was really thinking about and like learning about all the kind of urban design stuff. You know, and when you're like, grow up in a suburb in America, and all you know is cars, and you just think in terms of lanes and vehicles and throughput and traffic and all that, and parking and houses, you know, and like commuting time to work. But your only tool is a car, right? And all you know is terrible, you know, really crappy transit, buses that barely function, streets that are completely car-centric, and everybody owns a car and everybody drives a mile, you know, to go 1 mile, because the streets are often so terrible, not designed for walking. Then yeah, of course you're going to think in terms of electric cars are the future. I think a lot of people have really bought into this. And Europe is largely like a living, breathing, dude, I have the right of way. There's a walk signal. That guy, I don't know what he's thinking. It's the thing about failure to yield and like right of way. I may have the right of way, but then I'll be dead, right? Right of way demands that somebody basically die or get hit. Because for me to assert my right of way, I'm gonna go through this, because I'm gonna try to get up here over to 113th. Because for me to assert my right of way, I literally have to physically have to get in front of a car, right? Oh, these guys. Whoop, whoop. Okay. I like that, they're using their voices. So yeah, so for me to assert my right of way in a situation where I'm like crossing a lane or whatever, what just happened up there, I literally need to get in front of a car and hope to God the car doesn't, that the driver, not the car, that the driver does not kill me with his car or hit you with the car. And so that's such a crazy like level of responsibility. Like that's up to me to then deal with that. Go ahead, buddy. Turn. So like I have to get in front of a car, walk, right? I'm in the crosswalk, I'm walking, but it's got like that's clearly right of way. Oh, they have a nice little vest in the window there. That's definitely illegal. They are definitely placard abusers, but they never see a ticket. I saw like 4 cars on a block over here walking over to citbike, and 3 of them had tickets and 1 of them didn't. And guess what was on the one that didn't get the ticket? The one that didn't have a ticket had an FDNY placard. This woman is making an illegal U-turn. Ooh, let's see if there's some room here. All right, there probably is. All right, that is me, over and out. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.